Hi friends, I'm here today with a quick tutorial for how to convert overlay mosaic crochet patterns to inset mosaic crochet patterns, or vice versa. I had a request from somebody on Facebook to do a video on this, so I'd like to show you how easy it is. So let's get started. I've got two swatches that I made in mosaic crochet. This one is the overlay technique and this one is the inset technique. And if you haven't learned to do either of these, go ahead and watch my videos. I've got links in the video description below for those videos so that you can learn both of these techniques. So basically in mosaic crochet, you're using two contrasting colors so that you can see the pattern, and you use only one color across each of your rows. With the overlay mosaic crochet technique, you're doing one row of each color and each row is worked on the right side. So you begin and end each row. With the inset mosaic crochet technique, you do two rows of each color. You have a right side row and a wrong side row. And you carry your unused color up the edges. Now you may be saying, I don't see where you began and ended each of these rows. Because when you see overlay mosaic crochet, you typically see tails like this. Well, I don't like the tails, so I did this swatch in my continuous overlay mosaic crochet technique, which I call COM. So if you want to learn this technique, then go ahead and check out the video description for the link to that video. But besides these differences between one row in overlay of each color and all being worked on the right side, and alternating two rows of each color, a right side and a wrong side, and carrying your colors up the side, there's another big difference in the overlay and the inset mosaic crochets. In the overlay, you're working your single crochets in the back loop, and that gives you that free front loop to work your double crochet into later on. In the inset mosaic crochet technique, you're working your single crochets into both loops. And when you're going to have a double crochet later, you work one or two chains and skip that stitch. So because of these differences in where you're working your single crochets, your row gauge on your overlay mosaic is taller for the same number of rows as it would be in the inset. This overlay swatch has 9 rows and this inset swatch has 18 rows. So you would think this would be twice as tall as this other swatch. But because of working those single crochets in the back loop, this row gauge is much different than this row gauge. Also, because of those differences in the single crochets and the chains, the inset mosaic crochet swatch is wider than the overlay mosaic crochet swatch. So you need to know those differences in the two techniques in order to successfully convert one pattern to the other. Because if you just took a pattern for this and converted it to this and you thought it would be the same size as this, it's not going to be. So you need to know those differences. Now, if I wanted this swatch to come out the same size as this swatch, I would either need to remove a repeat in the width, or I would need to use a smaller crochet hook. I would also need to work less rows for it to come out the same size. Now, if that affected the mosaic crochet pattern, that would not be good. So whenever you're converting a pattern from one style to the other in mosaic crochet, you want to kind of look at the pattern for the repeats and see how you can change that or how they could be modified. For instance, if I was taking my Dueling Diamonds pattern, you can see that there is this many stitches wide in a repeat, and it's repeated many times across the row. And there's this many rows high, which is actually all the way up to from here to here. This is a full repeat. So I would need to do some figuring out to find out how I could convert this to the other style. This is Overlay Mosaic Crochet. If I wanted to do it in Inset and wanted the finished project to be the same size as the Overlay one, I would need to do a lot of calculating. Now, the amount of yarn that's used in the Overlay versus the Inset is probably going to be different because, as you can see, we have different sizes of swatches here. This Inset swatch is about 50% taller than the Overlay swatch. It's also about 10% wider, and it weighs 50% more than the Overlay swatch, but it is a larger piece. So you can do the math to figure out how much yarn you would need in the other style of mosaic crochet that you're converting your pattern from Overlay to Inset or Inset to Overlay. Now let's take a look at the charts for the two styles. You can see that they're very similar, just like the swatches are very similar. But the big difference is in the Inset Mosaic Crochet swatch, you have an A row and a B row, and that's because you're working 2 rows of each color. So you've got a right side and a wrong side row. You also have another symbol in here, and this open circle is the chain 2 space that's worked in the Inset Mosaic Crochet style. We don't work those in our Overlay Mosaic Crochet. So if I was to take this chart and convert it to this chart, I could just put my B rows here, and I would add these open circles right below the double crochet circles, because these dark circles here denote a double crochet on my Overlay Mosaic Crochet charts. A lot of designers will use an X to show their double crochet, but I use a circle. So in order to convert them from Overlay to Inset, you would add those chain 2 spaces below your double crochets, or if you have several in a row, it would be a chain 1 for each of those plus 1 extra chain. And if you were converting from Inset to Overlay, you would take these chain spaces out on your chart, and you would not have your B rows. You would just work all of your rows starting on the one edge and finishing off at the other edge, and 1 row of each color. I hope you've enjoyed this quick video and that you've learned to convert your mosaic crochet patterns from Overlay to Inset or Inset to Overlay. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of my videos, subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and happy mosaic crocheting to all of you. I don't know. Wake up! Snap to it! You recording? Yeah. Okay, you can see here that I have 2 swatches of mosaic.
Swatches? We don't need no stinking swatches.